So in the gospel today, we hear about at the end of time, the angels will come with this dragnet, as it were, and drag all those in, and like the fishermen, throw the good into buckets and the bad they throw away. And there's this discernment about what will happen. And today, as we celebrate the feast day of St. Ignatius of Loyola, it's also a good opportunity for us to look and say, in our own lives, are we discerning about what's going on? One of the things that St. Ignatius makes clear is the importance of first being aware of what's going on in our spirits, and second, then understanding then what is happening, and then third, taking action. If it's from the Lord, going along with it. If it's not from the Lord, then rejecting it. That we look at these things, being aware, understanding, take action. And he used this the image of his own conversion and what happened with him as an example of this. And so we know that he was very much a vain man, focused on himself, although he was also a good leader of people and could inspire people. Well, when he was at a castle that was being attacked, he inspired all these people within the castle, even though they had no chance of winning, to fight against and to defend. Well, until a cannonball shattered his leg. He was then carried over long miles towards a place where he could recover. And of course, this was many years ago, so there wasn't any sort of anesthesia, and he had great pain as they went along. And they did surgery on his leg, and because he was so vain, because it left a little like a big scab and other things on his leg. His bone was out of place and all this stuff, and he says, I want it to look good. And so he said, re-break the bone, and they had to go in and shave down the bone and all this stuff. Crazy man, just because of how it looked. But so in his recovery from that, he then was looking forward to have some novels to be able to read and the like, and they didn't have any where he was at. All they had was the life of Christ and the lives of the saints, which he didn't really want to do, but eventually out of boredom, he finally started reading them. And as he was reading, he's like, oh, this is interesting. And he found, and this is where the be aware came in, he found that when he was having his fantasies about being some sort of a gallant knight and fighting for good things, he had such pleasure in that moment, but afterwards he would feel dry and empty. But when he fantasized about, well, what if I did what St. Francis did, or what if I did what St. Dominic did, or when he was doing that, about things that had to do with Almighty God, not only did he have pleasure in the midst of the fantasy, but then afterwards, he still felt full and continued. And this continued for a long time, and then he started to become aware, wait a second, there's something going on in my soul. And later he was then able to understand, oh, this is the movement of Almighty God. The things of this world leave me dry. The things of Almighty God afterwards leave me full. And then later, he then started to take action to transform his soul and seek after Almighty God. And this can be very helpful in our own lives to be aware, because so often, much of our lives, and I'm guilty of this so much, we're just moving along in our lives and we're not really paying attention to what's going on in our souls. So for instance, I remember I was going off to pray with someone, and I was feeling rather ornery that morning. And I was saying, this is not a good place to be if I'm going to go and pray with someone. As I'm driving along and saying, okay, what's going on inside of me? trying to be aware of, okay, what is happening within me? Why am I so crotchety this morning? And I couldn't figure it out but I'm praying about it and saying, okay, God, what's going on? But I was aware of it, asking God for understanding of what was going on inside of my soul. And I was trying to do an examination. Is it because of something, this or that or the other thing? Then suddenly the Lord revealed it to me. It just struck me. I didn't have breakfast that morning. I was hangry. That was what was going on. It was a very natural thing. It wasn't like something to do with, being in spiritual consolation or spiritual desolation, but it was a very natural thing. I was hangry because I didn't eat breakfast. And I was like, oh. And it was funny because as soon as I understood what was going on inside of me, I felt peace. Now, sometimes, especially when it comes to spiritual consolation and spiritual desolation, we have to become aware of what's going on inside of me. Why am I moving this way? Why am I tending away from Almighty God and towards the things of this world? Oh, I'm in spiritual desolation. Okay, now I understand what's going on. Now take action. What do I need to do to take action against this spiritual desolation? Okay, I need to spend some time in prayer asking God to break through this. Maybe I need to listen to something that will raise me up and help me to grow closer to Almighty God. Whatever it may be. Taking action towards Almighty God against the desolation, or if it's something that's consolation, taking action towards the consolation. So through the intercession of St. Ignatius of Loyola, we ask today for the grace of Almighty God, to be able to be aware of what's going on inside of us, in our soul, within our body, to be aware of our lives, to understand then, to have God's grace to help us understand what's going on, and then when it's from God, to take action towards Him, and when it's not from God, to take action against that which is not from God.